Before we begin this video, I'm just going to shout out the book that gave me the most information on this topic, and that's What If the Allies Had Fallen. A really great book I'd recommend to any alternate history lover, as it dives into the what ifs of World War II. This is not a sponsorship, I just really like this book. Now that that's out of the way, I'd like to welcome you to the video. D-Day is often the most brought up battle of World War II. Not only is it mentioned in books, TVs, and movies, but even video games. Something that many people don't know about is the proposed D-Day-like amphibious assault in the Balkans, or more specifically Styria, a peninsula located in the North Adriatic. And today we will dive into the alternate history of what would that look like and the impacts it would have in the Balkans. Europe right now is a slogfest. The Western powers have just landed in Normandy, the Soviets are beginning to advance into Poland, and the Italian campaign is wrapping up. To relieve pressure off the Balkans, the British Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, proposed Operation Armpit. Yes, that is the real proposed name. This daring invasion would help advance the Western Allies into Vienna, leaving large gaps in the German pockets. But in our timeline, it didn't happen. The reason, to put it simply, is that no one really cared. Roosevelt wanted to keep pushing into France, and Stalin didn't want the Western Allies to go into his zone of influence. But in order for this scenario to happen, we could say Churchill was very adamant, to such a degree that Roosevelt and Stalin gave him the go-ahead. With these changes, on July 1st, the British would land in a scramble invasion, essentially D-Day, but more spread out, and the boats have big ramps on them. Along with these seaborne invasions, paratroopers would land deep in the peninsula, capturing strategic roads and ports to allow supplies to pass through to the Slovene resistance, which was also working in the area. Best case scenario is that the British and Americans would push north into Italy, and the Social Republic falls. Meanwhile, the British and Slovene resistance managed to overwhelm or possibly force the Slovene home guard to switch sides. With Operation Armpit being a success, the second phase would start. First, the Western Allies would send supplies to the resistance, overwhelming the German and Croatian garrison. Second, the British and Americans would slowly push their way through the Julian Alps and eventually make it to the Graz Basin, allowing easy capture of Vienna in October. Third, with the Soviets possibly gaining ground in the east, the British would continue to head north and stop Soviet gains, possibly by allowing Bohemia, a region of Czechoslovakia, to be within Allied control, by capturing Brünn or Prague. In addition, the Soviets would capitulate Hungary, and unlike in our timeline, the Germans couldn't have reacted, so the Allies would have another member. And the final step would be to squeeze the Germans out of southern Germany. Some months later, the Soviets would enter Berlin, ending the war in Europe. The map as you see is very different from our own. To start, let's go to Germany. With the British advancing into Czechoslovakia, Germany would be divided along the Oder River, and not the Neisse River, to ensure the country to be divided equally among the east and west. Next, we'll go to Czechoslovakia. As when the British captured Bohemia, the Soviets would have nothing left but Slovakia, ensuring that Czechoslovakia would definitely be divided. Next, there's Hungary, which would keep its territories from the First and Second Vienna Award, as it was gained before World War II. And finally, there's Yugoslavia, which would lose Croatia and Slovenia, as both parties were aligned with anti-communism, and the British was already in the area, ensuring that these areas would already be a part of NATO or NATO-leaning. And this is where I'll end the video. Thank you all for watching, and make sure to subscribe to the Alternate History channel.